وسهلا بكل الذين ينضموا للاستماع إلى راديو بلدي أول راديو عربي أمريكي ويعنى بقضايا العرب في المهجر. برامجنا في راديو بلدي كل يوم جمعة من 8 وحتى 9 صباحا مع ليلى الحسيني في بث حي ومباشر عبر WNZK راديو 690 AM. صباح الخير بلدي، صباح الخير لكل مستمعينا.
Welcome to Radio Baladi, the first Arab, Middle Eastern and American simulcast radio show. Radio Baladi is broadcast every Friday morning on WNZK 690 AM from 8 until 9 Eastern Time on Good Morning Michigan with Layla Al-Husseini. Our call-in number 248-557-3300. And now, stay tuned for the best radio talk show on Arab and American issues with your host, Layla Al-Husseini.
I am Atef Abdel Gawad. Join me the first Friday of each month at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. I will be discussing some of the most important issues and events in the Middle East live on America's Voice of the Arabs. WNZK 690 AM and WDMV 700 AM.
Good morning. When Egyptian leader Gamal Abdel Nasser offered his resignation and accepted responsibility for the 1967 defeat in the war with Israel, the Egyptian people appealed to him to stay in power, declaring, ما تسبناش هتسبنا لمين يا ريس؟ احنا ما نسواش حاجة من غيرك يا ريس. We are powerless without you, Mr. President. Ever since the 1952 Egyptian coup, Arab countries had been marching in a vicious circle on an endless road to democracy. In Egypt, Syria, Iraq, Yemen, Algeria, Libya, Sudan, and Tunisia, Arab leaders had come to power only to stay for life. The excuse? The presidency of for life is the best way to guarantee continuity and stability. Today, the circle lives on. Egypt, Algeria, and Sudan are examples of the circle. Not only are leaders seeking power for life, but voters, parliaments, and masses of people consent to the will of dictators. Is it the will of the people or the will of dictators? In the next hour, we'll be discussing the question, the circle, and the future. We have with us now three distinguished experts from Egypt, Sudan, and Algeria, three countries where the president seems to be running for life. We have with us Dr. Said Elsisi, no relation to President Elsisi of Egypt. Dr. Elsisi is professor of Arabic studies at the University of Maryland. We have with us Dr. Shaza Elmahdi, a Sudanese-American political activist. And we also have with us Mr. Mustapha Azzoug. He is Algerian journalist and news anchor. Before we start our discussion, I would like to inform our audience that they can call us with questions or comments, and the number to call is 248-557-3300. That's 248-557-3300. I'm going to start our discussion by asking our three guests to give us an update on political situation in their respective countries in terms of the struggle for presidency for life or the constitutional amendment or whatever is happening in their countries. And let me start first with Dr. Said Elsisi, who will give us an update in less than 1 minute about what's happening in Egypt. Go ahead, Dr. Elsisi.
Good morning, Dr. Atef. Thank you for having me. I'm very pleased and honored to be with you and with your audience. Egypt lives now in a very, very critical moment since we have a president that insists not to learn the lessons from what happened only 8 years ago. That Egyptian people cannot accept a president for life anymore. And for the first time since 1952, we have 3 presidents alive. Before, we used to have the president, and we live with him until he dies or get killed. Even if you remember the great play by Adel Imam, when he was informed that the president dies, and he couldn't believe it. And he said, "Are you kidding? There is nothing like president dies." So in the mentality of people, the rules until he dies. After the revolution of January 25th, or the Arab Spring, that idea has changed. And people now would not believe that the president would rule until he dies. So we have some struggles here, and the president himself struggles most. That's why he's trying to legalize this ambition in order to rule for at least 2 extra terms. He himself doesn't believe that he can rule for life. So he's trying to change the constitution now. He's getting support from the parliament that, of course, been appointed by his power. And the question now, will that pass or not? The other political powers in the scene, will they accept it or not? The free world, will they let that go or not? And the most important part here are the people. Will they really let that go, even if it passed the parliament and the fake election or referendum that will take place? Will it go? I see anger growing up every day, and especially after what happened in Algeria and Sudan. I believe it will start in Egypt very soon.
Okay, I will have more questions for you, Dr. Elsisi, but let me now switch to Dr. Shaza Elmahdi from the Sudan, and she will give us an update in less than a minute in duration about what's happening in Sudan.
Thank you, Dr. Gawad, and thanks for having me. First of all, the situation in Sudan has been turning in a very dynamic way recently. During the last 2 months, we have had a mass protest in Sudan. 60 peaceful demonstrators were killed. More than 3,000 were arrested and detained. The issue of the constitution arose early in September 2018 when the parliament's member in Sudan collected signatures to do some sort of amendment to the constitution of 2005 that doesn't allow al-Bashir to run more than 2 terms. The main idea was to amend that article, which is Article 57, and to allow al-Bashir to run for the election in 2020. They were having enough votes in the parliament. And just to give you an idea, the Sudanese parliament, in the Sudanese parliament, there are like more than 33 political parties. Some of those political parties, like 22, were part of the national dialogue, and they joined the parliament seats not because they were elected, but because they participated in what was called the national dialogue. And somehow they were considered al-Bashir allies. But in late September 2018, they removed their membership, like they pulled their members from the parliament and announced that they are joining the Declaration of Freedom and Change, which was at that time declared by the Sudanese professional associations, the main core that is leading and organizing the current protest in Sudan. In February 22nd, 2019, this year, after all this mass protest was going everywhere, like in a very wider geographic areas almost across the country and across different affiliations and different age and different political parties among the Islamists as well among the modern views and citizens, and also among the leftists as well. Al-Bashir announced on the 22nd of February that he is putting this amendment on hold. At the same time, he declared the state of emergency in Sudan for 1 year, and he dissolved the government, the central government, and the state governments. Now the country is running under the emergency law, which is a law that's really used for a long time to oppress protesters and to put them in jail, to run some sort of unfair kind of treatment for the peaceful protesters in general. So what I would say right now is that the parliament is putting the amendment on hold, but it has never been an announcement that this is no longer going to be presented before the parliament. Probably after 1 year of emergency situation in Sudan, if nothing has changed, this amendment will come on top again. But I'm assuming because of the very dynamic situation in Sudan, lots of things might happen in the next few months.
Okay, I will have more questions for you in the next minutes, but let me now turn to Mr. Mustapha Azzoug, who will give us an update on what is going on in his country in Algeria. Go ahead, Mustapha.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me. Well, as you all know, we are having presidential elections, which will take place on April 18th. And as we speak right now, people are gathering in the capital, Algiers, to demonstrate over the president seeking a fifth term in office. The Algerians were brave enough to break the silence and took to the street to protest. We have never seen protests, this mass protest in Algeria, for a long time. However, the Prime Minister, Ahmadou Yahya, upon giving a statement to the parliament yesterday, somehow compared the protest we're having right now, Algeria is witnessing throughout the country, to the Syrian civil war. So that's the update we're having right now in Algeria. Police and the gendarmerie are present in Algiers with a lot of security forces deployed, and I'm seeing now live videos of police forces dispersing the demonstrations. Previously, the Prime Minister said it's their constitutional right to demonstrate and to give their opinion, but somehow we're seeing footage of police forces using force against demonstrators. Yesterday, my colleagues, journalists, held a rally in the Freedom of Press Square in Algiers to demonstrate against what they dubbed as censorship, because journalists were not allowed to cover and say the truth in Algeria. What's going on now?
Okay, let's continue our discussion. It's going to be an exciting discussion because I have challenging questions for the notion that a president or a leader should be there to rescue his country, and he is the only one who can do that. After the break.
If halal is important to your family, you can trust that Miramar will offer not only the highest quality halal products, but the best tasting and healthiest foods that can be placed on your family table with confidence. Miramar is the first and oldest halal certified food brand in America, serving the Arab and Muslim community, and offers a wide range of halal food products. Check out Miramar's halal food selection today by visiting Miramar's executive distributor, Ziad Brothers Importing, at www.ziad.com.
Life is a nonprofit charity that's provided humanitarian aid and development to people and communities for over 25 years, regardless of race, color, religion, or cultural background. When disaster occurs here or around the world, Life for Relief and Development rushes in to provide food, medical aid, and shelter to those in need. Please help improve these efforts. Make your tax-deductible donation to Life now at lifeusa.org or call 248-424-7493.
It's all in one grocery store, and that store is Zamzam Fresh Foods Market. Zamzam Fresh Foods Market offers fresh vegetables, halal meats, a great fresh bakery, as well as nuts and spices and much more. They also offer special deals every Wednesday, so don't forget to ask for your favorite foods, as shish kebabs are ready to go. So please stop by Zamzam Fresh Foods Market at 24065 Orchard Lake Road in Farmington Hills. Their phone number is 248-476-0300. Again, that phone number is 248-476-0300, and they are open from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Zamzam Fresh Foods Market is your one-place stop for all your grocery shopping needs and your favorite foods.
When you're looking for the best in optical care, Dr. Imad Nakash is your doctor to see. With years of experience and thousands of successful procedures performed, you can trust your eyes to Dr. Imad Nakash. See Dr. Imad Nakash and his professional staff for your eye care needs. There's 2 locations to serve you. In Hazel Park, call 248-336-3937. 248-336-3937. In Rochester Hills, call 248-299-3937. That's 248-299-3937.
I am Atef Abdel Gawad. Join me the first Friday of each month at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. I will be discussing some of the most important issues and events in the Middle East live on America's Voice of the Arabs. WNZK 690 AM and WDMV 700 AM.
Welcome back to our discussion on Radio Baladi. We have with us 3 distinguished guests from Egypt, Sudan, and Algeria, and we are discussing why and how the presidents in Arab nations normally tend to extend their presidency most of the time for life. So I'm going to have this question for Dr. Sayyid Elsisi, and I want to repeat again that Dr. Elsisi is no relation to President Elsisi of Egypt. Dr. Elsisi, you seem to find some excuse in why President Elsisi is seeking to stay in power maybe until 2034 by amending the Egyptian constitution. And the Egyptian constitution simply limits the terms a president can serve. So give us your reason. Is it why does a president, it's not just Sisi, but Sadat and Mubarak and Nasser before him, believed that they are the only people in Egypt who can rescue the state, the country. They are the only savior. Give us your interpretation of that.
I believe that we inherited that from the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire, once a ruler gets to, he executes everyone else, so that he will be the only one in the picture, and people will just put all the hope or put all the fear just on him. And they would expect from him everything. He would be like the patriarchal figure that provides for the country, that protects the country. And you gave already a wonderful example when you started that with what happened with President Nasser. He was just defeated, and it was a very big, scandal. What happened in the 6-Day War or the Naksa. And even though people came to streets and they begged him to stay in power because they don't know what to do without him. Because basically once he got in power, he get rid of all the other political powers, all the other parties that were running during the royal regime of Farouk, the Wafd, the Dastur, Saadiyin, all of them. And he also gets rid of the constitution that says clearly that the political life in Egypt relies on different parties. And they put the really tricky slogan by Mohammed Hassan al-Haikal, I believe, that the people willingly choose the dictatorship. So with their free choice, they choose the dictatorship. So that was very, very blunt back then and very weird to be ruling the mentality of people. But since then, that's not true. We wait until the president dies in order to hope that the next one will be better. But what I believe that after the Arab Spring, that changed, and people will not wait for Sisi to be gone, like by death or by accident or whatever. But they don't buy anymore this idea, and they believe that he shouldn't run for life. He shouldn't even run for more than 2 terms. This will change. People are angry, especially that even if they're deep inside the people, they would accept a dictator who is strong, that he's building something, he's giving them something, he's doing something to the country. They might accept that. But even this image of a good dictator or a positive dictator, Sisi does not fit in this picture. So that's why the anger against him is growing day after day. And the idea that's been sold through his media that he's the only one and he has to finish what he started. The people on the Facebook, on Twitter, on the social media, they're not buying that. They expose every lie right away. That, okay, if you say that Mubarak was the only one to save the country, why are you accepting Sisi now? And now, if Sisi has to finish something, he didn't already start building anything. And all his great projects like Suez Canal or the 1 million acres of agriculture, all that just lies. So people don't buy any more such lies, because now we don't rely on one voice of the media controlled by the president or whoever in power.
Let's take this phone call from our friend Jerry Habba. Go ahead, Jerry. Good morning.
شكرا. Thank you, Dr. Atef Abdel Gawad. Assalamu alaikum وعلى ضيوفك الكرام, your distinguished guests. Dr. Atef Abdel Gawad, the leader the Arab leader in the Middle East, they want to rule for life. But what make it worse, and in Arabic, وما زاد في الطين بلة من المضحك والمؤلم أن الرئيس لا فقط يحافظ على منصبه, but he think that his son will be the next ruler for the country after his death. Like what happened Saddam Hussein of Iraq, want to put his son Qusay or Uday. President Hafez al-Assad want to put Basil and Bashar he's leading today. President Hosni Mubarak of Egypt want to put his son Jamal. President of Libya, Colonel Gaddafi, want to put Saif al-Islam. So this is very sad. And I want your guest to respond to that. And thank you, Dr. Atef Abdel Gawad, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jerry. Now, Dr. Shaza, would you like to respond to Mr. Habba?
Yes, of course. Although the kind of inherited governance is not applied to Sudan somehow. In terms of appointing his son, al-Bashir does not have any children, but at the same time, he managed to have his close circle of relatives, including the last prime minister that was appointed in 2018, Mu'taz Musa. Mu'taz Musa was his uncle, and al-Bashir brought him to be the prime minister. At the same time, he gave power to his tribe. In Sudan, we still have some sort of tribalism that's controlling the government and the political map in general. So he gave power to most of those who belongs to his one tribe, which is Al-Jaliyin. The other part was part of another tribe. They call it Al-Shagi in northern Sudan. But at the same time, I guess this was related to the deeply rooted war that was a reason to have Darfur crisis back in 2003. The main idea was that the power was mainly divided into certain groups of certain ethnicities, marginalizing the rest of the country. This was the same reason that participated in having a long civil war in our history, probably the longest one in the region, which was the South and Northern Sudanese War. Unfortunately, everything went in the wrong direction until 2011, when the when South Sudan, when we had the referendum and South Sudan was separated from the North. What I wanted to say in this particular moment is that al-Bashir, the president that is wanted by the International Criminal Court for crimes against humanity, is the same person. During his presidency, Sudan went through the worst situations in terms of the economic crisis. He's always mentioned in his speech that he doesn't want Sudan to be similar to Syria and Yemen. But in fact, the inflation rates in Sudan is even higher than Syria and Yemen. We have more than 70% inflation rate in early 2019. There is very huge unemployment rates in Sudan. At the same time, there is this instability and the control of freedom of expression. The political parties are not allowed to practice politics in a healthy environment. Actually, most of the leaders of the political parties are either in jail or they disappeared in order not to be detained by the Sudanese forces. But what I wanted to mention is that in December 2018, we also are witnessing the most largest protest in our recent history. We had a similar protest in 2013 when some young populations were protesting in the streets against al-Bashir, and he killed 2,000 young Sudanese citizens. He was just firing live bullets in the streets against them. The question of why al-Bashir thinks he is the only person to govern, I guess for someone who was a president for 30 years, that would be the situation. Like he built his own empire in Sudan. He doesn't trust anyone else, and he is fearing that he will be arrested. The main reason why al-Bashir hasn't been arrested by the International Criminal Court, I guess, is because he was in power. The moment he loses this power, he will be very vulnerable, and anyone can take him to the ICC, similar to Algiers-based and other dictators who were charged by similar charges by the ICC. At the same time, we have a very brutal regime that left. I would say, al-Bashir said he killed 10,000 in Darfur, but the number of civilians who were killed during his presidency, I believe, is really higher than that. There is very bitterness among the Sudanese citizens towards al-Bashir. The Sudan has very distributed, networks of those who are having some sort of weapons. We had these militias everywhere in the Western Sudan and in the borders between the South and North. And also we have some are running across the borders between Libya and Sudan. We have very influential groups of armies, like what we call Quwat al-Dam al-Syria, which initially was just rebels group that got paid to fight on behalf of the government in Darfur. But then they became very influential and very empowered to the point they signed an agreement with the European Union, which is called Khartoum Process. And the EU, unfortunately, involved in this very sad event, which is giving money to rebel groups to prevent some illegal immigrants from crossing the borders between Sudan and Libya. But this is not the point. The point is that al-Bashir is in a great fear that the moment he loses power, he might lose his life.
Okay, Dr. Shaza, I will discuss this point of Mr. Bashir staying for almost 30 years in power, which reminds me also of the length of time another president, former president, in fact, Hosni Mubarak in Egypt. So it looks like the 30-year mark is historic. Let me take Mr. Sameh, our friend Sameh. He is on hold right now. Mr. Sameh, go ahead, and if you have a question or comment, please go ahead.
Good morning, Doctor, and good morning to your distinguished guest too. My question is, although that we understand that most of the ruling circles in the Western are understanding that Sisi is a kind of dictatorship and he's ruling the country in a very bad way, although that this is an understanding, but how come that he's been able to gather 50 countries between the Arab world and the European Union to a summit in last week in Sharm el-Sheikh? This is a question that I don't understand, and I wish any of you distinguished guests can address this contradiction. Thank you.
Okay, Sameh, thank you very much. We will see who would like to respond to Mr. Sameh's question, but after the break.
قشات ميديترينيان ماركت بإدارة سهر قشات وأولاده يرحبون بالجالية العربية والكلدانية. جميع أنواع المواد الغذائية، البان طازجة، الكرزات والبهارات الطازجة. داخل الأسواق مطعم ميديترينيان شيش كباب يقدم يوميا جميع أنواع الكباب، المقبلات العربية العراقية وصواني الكامبو المميزة. تفتح الأسواق من 8 إلى 9 مساء من الاثنين وحتى السبت، ومن 8 صباحا إلى 9 مساء يوم الأحد. تقع الأسواق على 32839 نورث ويسترن هايوي في مدينة فارمينغتون هيلز. لحوم حلال للجالية الإسلامية. لطلباتكم من المطعم كول 248-538-7855. That is 248-538-7855. قشة ميديترينيان ماركت، خدمة متميزة ومعاملة راقية.
Are you going to start a restaurant or grocery store soon? Do you need floor plans and designs? Call Naji Abood at 734-744-9796. Do you want to buy kitchen and restaurant equipment at discount prices? Call Naji Abood now, 734-744-9796. New Concept Products and Design, the trademark of kitchen equipment. 5% discount on all purchases of $75,000 or more. New Concept Products and Design, new location, 31185 Schoolcraft in Livonia. Learn more at www.newconceptproducts.com. Call Naji Abood, 734-744-9796.
انتهى الاجتماع ومحتارين هناكل فين؟
من الآخر وبدون تفكير، أورشد فودز أفضل وأحسن قرار.
عنده أكلات طيبة يا ترى؟
أورشد فودز عنده أفضل تشكيلة من المحاشي والمشاوي والمقبلات والسلطات والفطاير، وكمان بتتسوق لكل احتياجات الجروسري والملحمة وغيره بأسعار خاصة بمناسبة الأعياد، والأحلى إنه بنفس المكان.
على ضمانتك أروح وأجرب،
ولو على ضمانة الشيف، وبجودة وخدمة ممتازة وسعر منافس، ولو عندك مناسبة خليها عليهم.
أورشارد فودز أند جروسري يقع على أورشارد ليك رود بين 12 و 13 مايل في مدينة فارمينغتون هيلز. رقم الهاتف 248-516-3121 248-516-3121.
وعلى رأي المثل، لقمة هنية بتكفي 100.
The Rama Relief Foundation provides humanitarian aid into areas inside of war-torn Syria, as well as aid to the refugees who have fled to the neighboring countries in the Middle East. The foundation offers food baskets, container shipment, mental health, education, soup kitchens, and more. Go to ramarelief.org or call 248-990-4247. Any donation amount made to Rama will go to sustaining many lives. Call now 248-990-4247.
تعرفوا شيء، احنا كتير بنهتم بالمقبلات بالاكل الشامي،
واحنا بنهتم بالبهارات والتسبيكة في الأكل المصري،
واحنا نهتم هواية باللحوم وجودتها بالأكل العراقي، واحنا في مطعم عشتار نهتم بيكم. اعتمدوا علينا أيا كان. نحن في عشتار نعرف أن لكل مذاق أسرار، فنحن نقدم أجود أنواع اللحوم من ملحمة عشتار الواقعة على 56865 راين رود.
عشتار، قصة حضارة ترويها لكم أطباقنا المميزة في كل زيارة.
تفضلوا بزيارتنا في 3625 East 50 Mile Road ستيرلينغ هايتس.
مطعم عشتار بإدارة فادي بهنام وعلي البغدادي. 586-698-2585 586-698-2585.
I am Atef Abdel Gawad. Join me the first Friday of each month at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. I will be discussing some of the most important issues and events in the Middle East live on America's Voice of the Arabs. WNZK 690 AM and WDMV 700 AM.
Welcome back to our discussion on Radio Baladi. Before I turn to Mr. Mustapha Azzoug to answer the question about the relationship between Algerian President Bouteflika and the army, the military in Algeria, I would like to see if Mr. Dr. Elsisi can respond to our friend Sameh's question. If President Elsisi of Egypt is a dictator, how come we have Europe coming to attend a cooperative conference in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt? So does Europe acquiesce to dictatorships?
Yeah, actually, I thank Mr. Sameh so much for such a question, and I wonder with him, is this really a moment of pride or a moment of shame? And based on the question, let me ask the other important questions. Who really cares for democracy in the Arab world? And to be more specific, do the superpowers in the world now, like the US, the European Union, even Russia and China, do they really care having democracy in the Arab world? And if they are dealing, or sometimes, most of the time, supporting the dictatorship in the Middle East, so how they benefit the circle of dictatorship in the Arab world? So now, back to the question of Mr. Sameh, let me tell you about the shameful situation of that summit. So now, for the first time in history of supporting dictatorship in the Middle East, Elsisi now has the guts to face them with the facts and to bluntly say to them, just shut up and let me do the job you truly want me here for. Because Elsisi knows that they are not going to support any battle for democracy for real now. And they are there in this summit for their own benefits, for their own interest. And he knows that. And he puts the facts very clearly. He and Mohammed bin Salman and other dictators, money talk. So you cannot pay for providing my people with the basics of their life needs, like education, healthcare system. Actually, I pay you. You come for before, like some weapon deals. You sell your weapons and other business in our region. So we pay you, and you're not willing to pay anything for democracy. So just stop talking like that. And now, recently, he has the guts to put it clearly and throw it in their face in that summit. And before the President Macron, before the Italian Prime Minister, before him, and now with all the representatives from the European Union, that he shut them up. Don't talk to me again anymore about the human rights, because I am the one who's taking care of the job, that's keeping these people under control, and I'm preventing them from making trouble to you through immigration, illegal immigration to your countries that you don't have to face. So let me do my job and shut up. No other dictator could say it more clearly than Sisi say it now. And he has this courage because he's just saying a fact. I'm a dictator, you know it, and you are not truly willing to do anything about it.
That's interesting. Mustafa, the question is, as you know, in Egypt and in Sudan, presidents have normally come from a military background. In most cases, they actually come through a military coup. What it is like for President Bouteflika or Algeria in general?
Well, thank you. Well, it's not the same. Algeria is not quite similar to Sudan or Egypt. President Bouteflika does not come from a military background. He is a politician. He used to be the former foreign minister for Algeria under Boumediene's rule. You previously mentioned the relation between the president and the army. Well, you know, Algeria's political system is so opaque that analysts disagree who really wields power. So the military is seen as one of the most powerful and well-organized in Africa, and it has long played an important role in politics. You know, back in what the Arabs are living right now, like the Arab Spring, Algeria lived that back in the 90s, and we call that the Black Decade. In 1991, the People's National Army staged a coup depriving the Islamic Salvation Front Party of a near certain electoral victory, which probably resulted in a decade-long civil war. The President Bouteflika was brought in to head the transition period in 1999. Since assuming power, observers say he managed to bring the country under the military under the presidency's fold and restore some sort of a semblance of civil control, and he did that. And as I said, as I mentioned before, the military and President Bouteflika enjoy a very, very strong relationship. If you do remember right, I told you before that people are now demonstrating in Algeria against Bouteflika's seeking fifth term in office. But now the question is, who is going to lead the country, let's say, if Bouteflika resigns? Who will have the power? I personally believe that Arabs clinging to power is somehow deeply rooted in their nature. If you bring someone from the opposition to be a president, he will never leave office. And we've seen that in Egypt, for instance. They managed to overthrow President Mubarak in 2011, but then they end up getting worse than him, which is President Sisi. We don't want this to happen in Algeria. That's why we want a peaceful transition, which people say it's really hard to achieve in an Arab country.
Let me take a phone call from Atman, our friend. Please introduce yourself and go ahead, Mr. Atman.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call. Okay, yeah, just I'm comment. So last speaker who is talking about the Algerian politics. So it's different. It's completely different between Bouteflika and Sisi. Sisi is descendant. He came from the army. Bouteflika is completely civilian. He's a charismatic politician, or the youngest foreign minister for a long time, and the Boumediene era in the 60, 65, something like that. And also is the big politician and around the globe. So here is big difference between Bouteflika and Sisi. Bouteflika, for example, Omar al-Bashir, Bouteflika, Hafez al-Assad, Bouteflika and Gaddafi, Bouteflika, Saddam. Most of the rest, the president, he came from the army. Bouteflika is civilian. It's civilian. So here, the system or the politics in Algerian is not is the army. This is why the problem in the Arab country coast to coast. So the army will control. He won't stay in power. But it's not the army issue here. It's not the problem, the army and the Arab world. It's the Western government. He wants those people to stay in the power. For easy for him, he control, his interest for the business, whatever it is. So this is why, so here the problem is not for Mr. or Mrs. So here, because in the Arab country, we don't have the opposition official. The good example we give us now, the speaker now who speaks before me in the 1990 and Algeria is very friendly, and what you call it, the election, the FAS, Front Islamic Salute, when he elected and the election in Algeria. So the French government, he gave us the authorization, he gave us decision for the army, he have stopped this election. Or this is why the problem, like this is what he play game here around the Arab country. He trade the Arab country like the people he is not, he don't know about democracy. So the democracy is not from him. It's not for him also. So this is why he send him those people like the Sisi. Sisi is very ugly guys. His army mentality. So he not believe the civilian. He not believe the opposition party. He's not like what looking here in Canada, for example, the liberal, the national, or the other party, or the other country in Europe. Looking also and right now the Western what he do it in the Brasilia and the Central America. He bring the Brazilian. This is completely extreme right, evangelical, is Christian extremist. So is how we say? So he protect him by the army. So this is why the system for the Western. The problem is in the Western is not the Arab country. So the people he needs, so he know about what's going on about the Western. The problem is that the Western is not the Arab country. This way my comment, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Atman. Mustafa, would you like to comment? There is an interesting point here, and that is, even though President Bouteflika is a politician, he is a civilian, but he is joining in the same trend, seeking a fifth term, and I assume he is also being supported by the military in Algeria.
Thank you for, that's true, and I would like to comment on Mr. Atman's statements. It's true, I forgot to mention a point before, which is the foreign powers, especially France and Russia. Like, they don't want the current president to leave office to serve and preserve their own interest. Let's be quite frank here. Algeria is not Syria. With my respect, with my all respect to Syria, Algeria has a lot of potential. We have a lot of foreign companies operating in Algeria. Algeria supplies Europe with gas. So if the system and if a civil war ignites here that will obviously damage their interest, Algeria will stop supplying gas, or supply them with oil and everything. So they somehow have a say in this. They don't want this to end, to have their interest keep going. That's my point that I forgot to mention in my previous statements.
Okay, thank you, Mustafa. Now I want to spend the remaining minutes here in discussing solutions, the future. I mean, Dr. Elsisi said that that trend we are discussing now is rooted in the Ottoman Empire. Now, Mustafa said it is actually rooted in the nature of Arabs. So, Shaza, how do you see the future?
Well, I think the situation in Sudan currently, as I said, we're still having the protesters going everywhere in Sudan. Yesterday we had the biggest protest even after the state of emergency. What I would like to say is that since the Sudan's independence in 1956, the military and democratically elected governments have taken turns ruling Sudan. We had two revolutions in 1994 and in 1985. The crucial part was that each time we had a protest in the street, we had mass protests in the street, the military at some point would support that demonstrations. And this was the turning point in the government power. That was a turning point in both revolutions that we had back in the history. At this point, what happened in Sudan is that a week ago, al-Bashir declared the state of emergency. He gave more power to the military forces. Now the military forces, they have the right to arrest protesters, to put them in jail without trials, to do what they want to do in their very exceptional act that is enacted right now. What I would say is that he was trying to manipulate the Sudanese army and put them on his side. He's coming from the same background. But at the same time, the Sudanese citizens believe that at some point this power will be balanced in a way that the Sudanese army will support the Sudanese citizens. I would say there are no much for Bashir to be done right now in terms of political reform or even solving the economic crisis. The government is a bankrupt government. That's why I believe he dissolved the very redundant government, because he doesn't even, at this point, he's not even capable to afford the salaries of the government officials he announced as official in the different ministries and governments. Right now, we are in a state where the armies are controlling. He announced that the Prime Minister, Awad ibn Auf, will be the same as the Minister of Defense, the State Minister of Defense. He also put he's the Commander-in-Chief of Sudan, of course, but he put the very influential army members into some government positions in a way in the recent decision he took a week ago. This would be an alarming point for the Sudanese citizens in the streets, because they were thinking at some point the army will support them. I would say this might prolong the protest, but what I would see in the future is that because there are no solutions for Bashir and he's losing support from the international community, he's someone wanted by the ICC. At the same time, the country itself is going through the economic crisis. Through the future, the only thing that I would see that the Sudanese protest will topple this regime at some point. It might be longer than expected, but it's normal for a regime that was sitting there for more than 30 years. But at the same time, the momentum is being created right now in the streets, and they are gaining ground everywhere across the country. This is what I see, but nobody knows. It's unpredictable in a way because of the changing factors that are influencing the situation in Sudan.
Dr. Elsisi, how do you see the future in Egypt and in Arab countries in general?
Actually, I apologize for not being optimistic so much, even though let me focus on the positive side. I believe from now on, any dictatorship will have no privilege anymore of the people staying silent. And then now people, they are taking in their hand the responsibility of making their voice heard. And not just that, they have to take an action. No, now people don't rely anymore, as I explained with what I said about the summit. They don't rely anymore on the free world to give them any support. They don't believe in that. They don't believe in them. They just now know that they have to do it in their own. And if they really need to change their life, they have to do it by their hands. Unfortunately, they don't rely on the military anymore, the army in Egypt. The army used to have like that sacred position in their hearts. They don't even trust the army anymore. And the army is feeling, that's what I believe, feeling the encounter or facing the people more than the people are fear to face the army. So I believe that the army will be forced to respond to people when they move, when they come to streets again. And I believe sooner or later they will. And they will force everyone to make changes. So now it's in the people's hand and mind to decide what do they really want, what kind of change they're looking for.
Dr. Elsisi, I'm running out of time. I have to take a brief answer from Mustapha. But the question is for you, Mustapha, is we know the medical condition of President Bouteflika. So why President Bouteflika? Why Mr. Bouteflika? In less than a minute, please.
Nobody knows why. I told you before that the system is so opaque. You never know who runs the country. Maybe they chose him because nobody agrees to be president. They said, for instance, like you have A and B. Why not me?
Who
people in power. People in power. So they settled for him. They settled for him. Like, why not me? Why him? You know what I mean? That's what I meant. So they settled for the middle ground.
Mustapha. Thank you, Mustapha. I'm running out of time. I would like to thank Dr. Elsisi, Dr. Elmahdi, and Mr. Azzoug. And I will see you again the first Friday next month. Have a good weekend.